What is going on, everybody? This is another episode of Coordinated Chaos. On this week's episode, we will be going over what happened in the NFL in Week 9. Then we're going to go over what happened at the end of the trade deadline. And then we're going to finish off with a little bit of Thursday Night Football preview. Let's go ahead and jump right into this thing. Thursday Night Football of Week 9, specifically Jets versus Texans. This was on Halloween itself. Pretty scary game considering I don't know. It just wasn't a very good game, to be completely honest with you. I did predict the week before that I thought the Jets would win. I didn't put money on it. I said that on the podcast. I did not go through with that, so that was good. The Jets did pull it out, though, so I guess I was right, but I didn't feel good about it the entire time. Really, the Texans kind of pooped the bed. They really have been struggling as of late without Nico Collins, and obviously this is their first game without Stephon Diggs due to the ACL tear. So it just didn't really work out for the Texans. The Jets just kind of took care of business, more or less. It wasn't a great game from them either. So weird showing on Halloween.
Yeah, I think the Jets are kind of getting a lot of hype for beating a team. The Texans were 6-2, but this is not the same Texans that got to be 6-2. Yeah. So they're kind of beat up, but Adams and Rodgers are looking better, and yep. I think what Adams posted on his Instagram, Rome wasn't built in a day or something, with the picture of them too. And
that's funny.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the cheesy things that Aaron Rodgers does.
All right, man. But, I think that team, I don't think they might sneak the playoffs, but I don't see them doing much, to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially with the slow start.
It's going to be really hard for them to make the playoffs still because the AFC is really tough. There's a lot of good teams in it, including the Texans when they are healthy. Supposedly Nico Collins is trending to potentially play this week, but it looks like they might wait one more week just to kind of be very sure about the hamstring. Hamstrings are very
you don't
tricky.
Want to bring him back and then have him be gone for the year.
Correct. Yeah, you don't want to re-agitate a hamstring.
Especially with Diggs out.
Correct. You really need him for the long run. Honestly, the way the offense has been playing as of late for the Texans, it's just one of those situations where they're already the stock's already kind of trending downward anyway. So they need a little bit of a spark, and I think that spark is Nico Collins when he comes back healthy.
Yeah, because I think Mixon and Collins help each other because when Collins is on, they can't pack the box, and then when Mixon's on, they have to go one-on-one.
Correct.
So now that they don't have a receiver, they can pack the box, and Mixon can't really do as much, and it's on Tank Dell, and he's not a receiver one.
Yeah, basically. All right, well, that's pretty much enough for the Thursday Night Football. that game was just...
Yeah, that's all.
It was kind of like an afterthought considering the fact that it was Halloween. Everybody else was out having fun, and I was at home just sitting here watching this game being depressed about it. Just because it wasn't that great of a game. But either way, next game, Bills versus Dolphins, big AFC East matchup there. Obviously, this was basically the last-ditch effort, in my opinion, for the Dolphins to potentially put themselves in a position to make the playoffs, and it was a close game. They competed, but the Bills at the end of the day got the job done even without Amari Cooper.
Yeah, the Bills, Josh Allen's just good at winning games. He's kind of might get in trouble for this, but he's like a poor man Mahomes almost.
That's the way.
He can do it against basically anyone, but the really, really, really good teams.
Yeah.
But that was a win that the Bills needed, and
for sure.
They're off to a really hot start too.
Yeah. No, I think they've been playing good ball, and like I said, Amari Cooper wasn't playing in this game. He'll get more integrated in the offense as he gets healthier. He was out with that wrist. There's players that stepped up all over the field. Khalil Shakir was playing with very good ball again.
Doing good.
Yeah,
too.
Kincaid was doing some stuff. James Cook is still a good player. Ray Davis has really emerged for them as a backup running back, even if James Cook were to go down for some reason. I have a lot of confidence in Ray Davis, even though he's a rookie running back for them. But yeah, Bills look pretty good. Dolphins falter, obviously, here, and I think their chances at the playoffs are pretty much over.
I don't know if their playoffs are definitely done, but do you think the head coach stays, or do you think they start to... I
think he's still there. I think they realized it was kind of the situation they were dealt with, the Tua situation, so it kind of is what it is, but... the Dolphins season kind of screwed just because of the whole
do you
Tua
think
concussion.
They tank for just to try and get a better draft spot, or no?
I feel like they might be in on, rather than drafting somebody, I think they might be in on the fact that there's probably going to be some decent free agents out there to potentially just back up Tua. They're going to reiterate this offseason, Tua, this is your team. We believe in you, blah, 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 blah. but we want to bring in a veteran QB. So if this situation were to occur again, we'll have somebody like that. They need a Joe Flacco, a Jameis Winston. They need somebody that's a little bit more established to win them a certain amount of games if Tua were to miss again, even if it's not a concussion. Just somebody that's reliable as a backup, because whenever he wasn't in there, the offense fell off a complete cliff.
Yeah, because the offensive firepower when they're healthy is there.
Oh, for sure.
I played against A-Chain in fantasy, and
that was a disaster.
It went bananas.
Yeah,
and then Hill is good when he has a quarterback just because he's so fast, and so I think if Tua stayed healthy, because this is the same team, basically the same team as last year that was scoring like 70, and people were like, "Holy crap!" So not much has changed other than they lost their QB.
Yeah, I think some teams defensively are catching on a little bit to the way they've done some things. Like the whole offense is based on like timing and like accuracy, which is what Tua's strengths obviously are. And you saw as soon as he went out how much that affected the game plan and whatnot. And so I think some defenses are like, especially the Bills. The Bills kind of have had their number the last few years.
Yeah.
This game was competitive, and they scored more points than they have in a while against them. But I just think teams are getting to the point where they realize like it's more about a like finesse way of playing football than it is like physical brand of football. And
Absolutely.
I think that just fades as the season goes on, anyways.
Well, because once people, as you said, catch on to it, you can't do anything versus like the Ravens, if you're just playing smash mouth, like people know it's going to Derrick Henry.
That's about effort at that point.
Yeah, it's like no one can do anything. Like and same with the Chiefs, like the interior three, like they're just going to move you.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
You know what's going to happen there, and you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Then if all you're relying on is skill and like style, it's just
basically, it's just style points at that point. Basically Dolphins season more or less kind of over for like the meaningful football games, more or less. Bills on their way to winning the AFC East again, so they're looking good. We'll see if they can kind of round into form to where they're a real full-blown AFC contender at the end of the year. But Josh Allen's playing like an MVP, and he's looking like it's between him and Lamar again, which is just crazy that Lamar's even back in like the running again, but he's been playing really good ball.
Yeah.
Next game, Cowboys versus Falcons. This one was a disaster for the Cowboys. I mean, they came out and not to mention all the injuries that occurred during this game, but they just looked discombobulated, dysfunctional in general. The defense didn't have their details down. They were just letting wide open touchdowns happen everywhere on the field. The offense really couldn't get a whole lot going. Once again, the lack of the running game started to rear its ugly head once again, like it has all season long. They couldn't really stop the Falcons, and then obviously Dak Prescott like basically tears his hamstring in this game, as well as CeeDee Lamb sprains his AC joint. So both of their best players are hurt essentially. Zeke wasn't even like, he was a healthy scratch in this game because he like missed a meeting on a Saturday or something like that.
Yeah, they said he's missed 3 Friday meetings.
Oh my god! Exactly. That's wild. That's wild. And some people are speculating that he's like boycotting like his like playtime and like his role in the offense, and it's like, I don't know if you can really demand that right now, considering the way it looks, and you're kind of on the you're on the back end of your career, and
no way.
You kind of look a little cooked out there, and it's just, I don't know. It's a very bad situation. The vibes are super low.
Yeah, Dallas is not the spot to be if you're an NFL fan.
No.
And from the highlights I watched, they made Bijan look like Barry Sanders. Like he was just dancing. Like they got
him in open space, and he was just making people miss.
Yeah, and I don't even think he scored.
I don't think he did either.
Yeah, because he had 20-something fantasy points. He didn't score a touchdown.
Yeah, I think they got him
because
working in the
Algier scored. Algier carried like 3 dudes for like 6 yards.
That's their thing. Whenever like the game gets out of hand for the Falcons, they just like say, Bijan, we'll just rest you for this game, essentially. Yeah. And Tyler Algier is just like the hammer that can finish the game out.
I am curious if the Falcons are going to be able to win the division, because the Bucs are now 4-5, but the Bucs can obviously play.
Yeah,
I don't
good.
know how that's going to shape.
Yeah, I think the Falcons definitely win the division just because they already have the head-to-heads against the Falcons. I mean, against the Bucs. Even though the Bucs still do look very competitive without Chris Godwin in the lineup. They had a good showing against the Chiefs. We'll get to that a little bit later. But
the Panthers are on a win streak.
They are, and we will talk about them right now. Actually, Panthers versus Saints. This one, there's not a whole lot to talk about other than the fact that Bryce Young gets a W, first one of the season. He was very excited.
Yeah.
Dave Canales and him had a nice little embrace after the game.
Yeah, a little moment.
That was a nice little moment for them. But yeah, basically in the aftermath of this game, their head coach of the Saints, he gets fired, and Dennis Allen's out in New Orleans, and I never liked him. I thought he sucked as a head coach, to be completely honest with you. He's a decent defensive mind. Like, if he's a defensive coordinator, I could see someone bring him in for that, something very specific like that. But as, like, a leader of men, he was doing a terrible job. Like, he would come out in, like, press conferences and just take a dump on his players. And it's like, dude, you're never going to get the full support and backing of your players doing that type of stuff. And I don't know what kind of, like, I don't know where he learned his like leadership skills from, but it's not good. So Saints are in a little bit of a tailspin organizationally. But I will say, like, you can't, like, if you're a Saints fan, you got to think to yourself, like, only good days are ahead, considering the fact that, like, you're going to be getting a new head coach. You're probably going to be looking for a new quarterback because the Derek Carr situation has just kind of run its course at this point. Even though you're going to have to pay him again for another year because of the way his contract's set up. But yeah, it just things are looking a little bit more positive for the Saints because of this. Like they at least got this out of the way.
Yeah, they did. They also I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but I find it very interesting that the Cowboys traded for Jonathan Mingo after sitting on D-Hop and Amari Cooper. Yeah. And they gave up more for Jonathan Mingo.
Yeah. I was going to get to this
I find that amazing.
Yeah, I was going to get this a little bit later in the trade deadline talks, but we can go ahead and hit on this thing. The fact that the Cowboys got fleeced by the Panthers, an organization that is a disaster in itself, is hilarious. Yeah. Like Dan Morgan called up Jerry, I guess. I don't even know who answers the phone over there anymore, so I can't even really call it. Yeah, it's just a receptionist. She's just like,
Jerry Jones' office.
Yeah. But yeah, they get fleeced. Jonathan Mingo goes for a fourth, which it's funny that 2 or 3 years ago now, they received a fifth in return for Amari Cooper. And yes, there was a contract involved in that, but it's just like at face value, it just looks terrible.
Yeah, like it's not a good look.
Jonathan Mingo was the fourth guy in the rotation for the Carolina Panthers, and you trade a fourth for him.
Yeah.
Like, he clearly can't play. No. And like, you trade for him and think he's going to be this.
Yeah, I don't understand I don't know if they were watching his like Ole Miss highlights thinking like, this is our guy.
Must have.
Like, problem solved.
They just went back to their notes about him from Ole Miss. We're like, we really like this. Like, I understand that, but at the same time, man, like, he proved to you in the NFL that he's just not a professional player.
No, I would have gone after Leggett before I went after.
Oh yeah, they're not gonna go up with Leggett. Leggett's been playing really good ball actually. But yeah, just Mingo. That's kind of that whole situation. And it's funny that like this is the time they do it. Like right as like Dak's about to go on IR, like your season's essentially over. Like it's definitely in the balance. If Cooper Rush doesn't go on a crazy run, like your season's cooked. Yeah. So like I don't know, like the timing is terrible as well. Like I don't know.
Well, I don't understand how there were so many receivers that were passed up on that might have been a little older but have proved themselves.
For sure.
Like I don't understand. Like Adam Thielen's on the market. Granted, he said injury, but like D-Hop. I don't know why they wouldn't go after him.
D-Hop went for a fifth?
Sure. Amari Cooper was like a third or a second. I don't know why they wouldn't go after him. None of it makes any sense to me.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
The Cowboys continue to just
I think you and I can run that organization a little bit better.
Yeah, it's a disaster over there.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Lions versus Packers, NFC North rivalry here. This is the game.
You were wrong.
I was super wrong. Look, I had a little gut feeling. It didn't go the way I thought it would. I will say the fact that it was raining definitely affected things quite a bit. That plays directly into the hand of the Lions because they are a ground and pound first type of team. They're physical. They're gonna that's like their perfect scenario.
Knuckles and Flash can go crazy or whatever they're called.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny though is like that video I made for TikTok of saying Packers money line. I got so before the game even began, I got crapped on. I got so much hate.
It was all right, dumb.
I had like 30 comments before the game even started. And then the game happened, and at the end, people were coming back to the page. Like, people were just ripping me a new one.
Crap on.
Yeah, oh, dude, it was a crap on me fest for sure. But what's funny about that is just people don't really understand social media because all you did was just get me more engagement
and
get me more views.
All it does is help.
It really only helped. Like that one video got me like 8,500 views or something like that. It's something crazy, but that was not a good game for me when it came to predictions and whatnot.
The Lions, they still look like the best team in the NFL.
For sure.
They are getting it done pretty handily against a Green Bay team that is pretty good.
Yeah.
I think it was in Green Bay.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, they're able to. They're winning games, but it's not in the Chiefs mode. It's like they're winning games.
They're not even making them close for the most part. Like, even though the score of this wasn't like the past few weeks of the Lions blowing out like the Cowboys and the Titans and stuff like that. This was as big of a tail whooping as you can get as like in like a division rivalry.
Oh yeah, it's a division rival on the road. It's raining. It's like that's anyone's kind of like obviously it plays to the Lions, but with all those that you just want to win that game.
Yeah,
you don't
for
really
sure.
Care how.
And it did look like maybe Jordan Love was a little bit hampered with his groin injury.
That's the
but
excuse.
It's a good excuse. But at the end of the day, like he is concerning me a little bit with like some of his erratic throws, some of his turnovers and stuff like that have been racking up over the season. We'll see if he can kind of like hone it in. Like last year, he did. Last year,
he did.
Season,
he figured it out.
He was just as erratic as he is at the beginning of this season, and then at the end of the season, he kind of like fell into form. So we'll see if that happens for the Packers. I still believe in them as like a contender in the NFC.
Yeah,
like
sure.
I think they'll make it far in the playoffs, make it to the playoffs for sure. But yeah, I just the Lions are just on a different level right now than anybody else.
Yeah, they are.
All right, next game, Eagles versus Jags. This was interesting for the last quarter and a half. The first 2.5 quarters of this football game, the Eagles were dominating 22-0, and then things kind of went a little bit of a weird direction. The Jaguars got a possession halfway through the third quarter, drive straight down, and they score a touchdown. And then immediately after that, Saquon Barkley is running the football, gets his calf like tagged by a Jags player. He then stumbles and hits one of his linemen, falls down, fumbles the ball, and they pick it up and take it back for a touchdown. And then all of a sudden, because they go for two both times,
game on.
It's 16-22 in like 14 seconds essentially.
Yeah.
So and that was a controversial call. Obviously they said that he was not down by contact, even though the guy did make contact with him. They said that he stumbled because of when he hit the back of his lineman. Really weird call. I don't know. Like I feel like that's not a call that happens in the Super Bowl. Like they're not gonna call that in a Super Bowl.
Good thing the Eagles won't be there.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Not great. Not especially the way the Lions look right now. If you got to go to Detroit, it's gonna be a long day. But yeah, it was a weird situation. So then, obviously, buttholes start to get clenched out there.
Crap.
You're at
don't
home.
Don't joke.
You're in the Kelly Greens. Everybody's excited. Then all of a sudden, it's a ball game, and everybody thought it was a party all day.
Yeah, you look at the scoreboard. You're like,
it's really crazy.
Boy.
And like obviously, there's a lot of people. There's the controversial decision making by Nick Sirianni kind of rears its head once again in this game, and a lot of people in the media are talking about how like the Eagles, like the way they've looked offensively and defensively the last 4 weeks on this winning streak, like they believe in the talent on the team, but they just they think the head coach can potentially hold him back, and I still hold that as a belief as well. Like I don't know if Nick Sirianni is going to blow us a game making a really dumb decision, and I actually have a little bit of a theory about Nick Sirianni here.
Let's hear it.
And yeah, I'm curious to see what you feel about this, but. So obviously this offseason he was stripped of his, play calling duties, like more or less like the brain trust of the offense. Like this is going to Kellen Moore. He's the play caller. He should be the play designer, scheme wise, whatever. He obviously doesn't have anything to do with defense anymore. That's all Vic Fangio. I think there's a little bit of like a feeling from him that like he feels the need to put his own stamp on the football team on game day specifically, by like trying to like do these like 1,000 IQ type like decisions in a football game. And at the end of the day, sometimes like, especially in a game like this against a Jags team who's beat up, who you're just a better team than, just do the simple things, make the easy decisions, and just get out of there alive. And that's like what we were doing for the first 3.5 quarters. But he kept doubling down on these like certain decisions that like at the end of the day they just seemed erratic, and they just seemed like if it would have worked out he would have looked like a genius. And I feel like it's almost like an optics thing for him, that like he feels like he needs to almost overstep in this one area because he doesn't have control of the other areas of the football team.
Yeah, I could understand that because especially as a head coach, it's kind of like a pride thing. Yep. Like you want to be like, oh, this is my offense. Look
this is my team.
Like a Dan Campbell, like look how good they all look when they're passing it to our linemen. But like,
exactly.
I that is something I can get behind because then you want to be the genius behind the playbook. Like, yeah, y'all see that? Philly special. Yeah.
But he can't claim that. So now he's got to claim like, look how smart I am on game day. And he's like, I'm going for all these 2-point conversions, which I understand. There's a fine line between being aggressive and like dumb.
Yes.
Like I said at the beginning of the season, whenever he was making some really weird decisions, especially against the Falcons and a couple other games this season, it's just like you got to read the room of whatever that ball game is presenting to you.
For sure.
If this is a game where like you feel like you already have it in hand, all you got to be is like more or less conservative.
Yeah.
Just get out of there alive. Like just win the ball game. You don't have to like present this like false like I don't know attitude about like going about the game plan.
I mean, if like, do you think he told Saquon to do the backwards or
no way? We didn't even like touch on that yet.
We didn't talk about that or the headstand. The headstand
for Amon-Ra. That was great. That was a great.
But that was one of the sickest athletic things I've ever seen. You like turned around and just jumped.
That might have been the coolest thing I've ever seen on a football field ever. Like because nobody. It's one of those situations where like nobody expects that to happen. Not even your own teammates.
No, it's like he's faced the other way of where he's running. He just goes vertical. You're like, why would he jump?
I mean, straight up in the air and cleared the guy. The guy didn't touch him at all.
No.
Like,
the guy was not down. Like he was fairly like
he was like 87% standing up. Like that. Like he was barely hunched. It just an absolutely dumb athletic play from Saquon, and just like that's why you pay the guy right there. I mean, he's been carrying us like for the past 3 weeks.
Him and Joe Mixon, Loki have the same role. It's like, just like kind of have to win the game.
Yeah, I mean,
especially with the receivers being beat up. It's like, all right, it's on the running back.
Yeah, the fact that there's like that many, like the 1% of athletes that are in the NFL and like their reaction to that was like the fact that like that's their reaction as well. It's not just a bunch of us sitting on a couch on a Sunday like being like, oh my god, did you see that?
Chips.
It was literally it was literally everybody on the field was like, oh my god, what did he just do?
It reminds me when it was some podcast like this, but if Aaron Donald was here and DK Metcalf was here.
Yeah.
And you remember they asked Aaron Donald how much he benched, and he said 500. DK Metcalf.
He was like, what?
You're an absolute freak. Yeah, and it's one of those things where like if you told me that you bench 500 pounds, I'd be like, oh my god. Yeah. But if you tell another massive man and he's like, wow.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, that's
clearly
impressive. Really cool.
Yeah, especially when DK Metcalf is like made out of glass. Yeah. That dude is just cut from a different cloth.
Yeah.
Dude, like he just doesn't have any body fat, and apparently all he eats is like candy. Which is like, I don't understand that at all. Like some of these athletes are just built different.
It's like Marshawn Lynch, just Skittles.
Skittles on the sideline. He doesn't care. That's crazy. All right, let's go on to the next game. Rams versus Seahawks. This was an NFC West rivalry matchup. This game was wild. It felt like it didn't want to end. It just kept going and going and going. Went to overtime eventually. Seattle had a chance to score, couldn't get it done, and then the Rams come down.
Yeah, that catch in overtime.
Oh yeah,
disgusting.
Matthew Stafford, rolling out to his left, setting his feet a little bit, and just like tossing a perfect ball right over the defender's head. And Demarcus Robinson makes a perfect catch, one-handed, just right in the breadbasket. Game over, obviously.
Yeah.
The Rams, they are streaking right now, and they're getting hot at the right time. It feels like at least once they got healthy. Obviously, Puka does get ejected out of this game.
That was bad.
They were missing him for quite a bit of this game. The guy was blocking him for a little bit too long, especially when the play was on the other side of the field, and he didn't like it, and so he gave him. I wouldn't even say it was like a punch.
I wouldn't call
it was
it
like an aggressive like push to the face.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It was a little bit of a soft like call, especially to get ejected from it.
A punch has to be close fisted. That's what makes something.
Because it was almost like palm.
Yeah,
it was weird.
Like, especially when it's to someone's face mask. Like if you do a Myles Garrett where you rip his thing off and then swing, it's like all right.
Yeah, that's warranted.
When you
for
just
sure.
hit. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like that happens every game and it just doesn't get seen all that time.
For sure.
But like I feel like they were trying to make an
But
example out of
I
him.
do think it's interesting because I'm sure they'll be on his tail about it. But I bet he was feeling some frustration after the injury of like I want to get back. My team stinks. We really need to turn this around.
Sure.
And this guy was pushing him around.
Yeah,
and he had
and he had that injury like midweek that popped up. He had he he already had that knee injury before, which he came back from the IR, and then in the middle of the week he hurts his knee again, and it was just like a weird tweaking or whatever. But he played in the game, but then he got ejected, so it is what it is. But yeah, Rams look good right now. Don't trust the defense still. No. They're still not great, but they got some.
Bring Donald out of retirement.
Nah, I mean, honestly, like the Braden Fisk kid that they drafted out of Florida State at defensive tackle, he's looked really good. He had like a couple sacks in the game, if not like 3, something crazy. Jared Versus looked really good. Byron Young, I think, is his name on the other end. So they got some really young talent. Yeah. They'll evolve into a good defense, but they're just really, really young right now.
So they drafted 2 Florida State defensive linemen?
Yes. Huh. One in the first and one in the second.
But yeah, Verse had to be the first.
Verse was the first, and they traded up in the second, I believe.
Is he the big white guy?
Yeah, Braden Fisk is the one that ran really, really fast in the 40. That was him. Yeah. He's an incredible athlete, and he's been playing really good. People were a little bit like skeptical of his talent, as an actual player, but as an athlete, nobody had questions. No. Now everything's coming together for him, so it's been impressive.
And they're well coached. I feel like everyone knows like the Rams will be well coached.
Absolutely.
Especially with Stafford, like that team won't just go down.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, he's going to take advantage of every opportunity that the offense gives him, and McVay, like you can't have a down game against the Rams right now. No. They will take advantage. They will win the football game for sure. The Eagles actually have them on the schedule. I'm a little bit scared about that one, especially with the games that are like split in between them.
Have you seen the Steelers on December 15th have to play at the Eagles? On the 20th, they have to play at the Ravens, and on the 25th, they have the Chiefs at home.
Oh,
I'm like 3 games in 10 days.
Which I guess that's why they made this many moves at the deadline.
They're not cupcakes either. It's not like they're going Panthers, Titans, Raiders.
And I'm pretty sure the game against the Eagles is at
it's away home. I'm like, that's horrible.
Goodness, that's rough. Yeah, that's tough. All right, next game, Vikings versus Colts. This was Sunday Night Football. This game was disgusting to me. Yeah. This was probably as bad as the Thursday Night Football game, if not worse.
Prime time has not shown yet.
And really the only reason I'm even talking about this is because there's a few storylines in this, which is I'm going to give you credit once again for saying the Vikings have blow-up potential. And I think they're frauds. Yeah. I'm all the way in on the frauds. You called
the Saints early, and I didn't believe you.
You had it on the Vikings. Yeah. They are... they won the game. Let's not bury the lead there. But at the end of the day, it didn't look good. Sam Darnold had a couple picks in this game, and the Colts have one of the worst defenses in all of football. It's I don't know. I can't trust that going forward. It is what it is. Sorry, the defense. People are starting to figure out if you just run the ball and just keep your offense balanced, you can beat that Vikings defense.
Well, especially with their division with the Packers and the Lions. They're just cooked.
They got to stay competitive, and I don't know if they're going to be able to do it.
I don't think they can beat either of those teams.
I don't think so either. So that's an interesting storyline there. And then obviously the other one is Joe Flacco starts in this game after the benching of Anthony Richardson, and then looks like absolute turd. Just looks terrible.
That was bad.
I mean, and a thing that people were pointing to on Twitter and whatnot, and I didn't even think twice about it, but it makes so much sense. The run game and Jonathan Taylor looked like dog crap because of the threat that they used to have with Anthony Richardson pulling the ball and running it.
Joe Flacco ain't going anywhere.
They know, if this is an RPO, guess who's not running? Joe Flacco. So they can really focus in and hone in on the run game, and it's just not as efficient as it was once before. And the weapons aren't good enough to just be winning without a good run game.
Yeah, for sure.
The defense stinks, so the team is kind of in peril right now.
Yeah.
I feel like Anthony Richardson probably starts more games by the end of the season again. They're going to have to put him back in there.
Yeah, he needs to come back because I agree with what you Joe Flacco. No one's ever been all right, should we cover Taylor or watch Joe Flacco roll out?
Exactly.
He ain't moving.
Yeah, no, and he just, I don't know, he looked a little bit skittish in the pocket in this one as well, and it's he looked good last year when he had to take over for Cleveland, but it just didn't look as good in this matchup with the Colts.
I also think as an older quarterback of him or Andy Dalton, they're at the point in their career where they've had their prime, they don't want to get drilled. None of them want to drop back, try and scramble and just get rocked.
Yeah, getting getting just pile driven into the ground at 40 years old. There's no way that feels great.
No, like it's not like they're 20.
We've seen all the grimaces that Aaron Rodgers has given us like all season long, and it's like we understand.
Yeah, it's not like they're 22 and trying to prove themselves.
Yeah,
like they're
He's like, I'm over it.
Yeah,
like, I'm going to throw this ball away.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, next game, Chiefs versus Buccaneers. This Monday Night Football. I didn't get to watch a whole lot of this game, but I got all the big spots of it more or less. Honestly, right off the bat, Baker playing as well as he has without all the weapons and everybody being banged up is really impressive. I think he's played really good football all season long. The defense of the Buccaneers is still pretty just up and down, and he's keeping his team competitive and in all of these football games, and that's just really impressive to me. And then the Chiefs, just at the end of the day, getting the job done like they always do. D-Hop really showed up in this game. Travis Kelce really showed up in this game. Kareem Hunt turned it on in the second half, didn't have a great first half. There's some inkling that Isaiah Pacheco could come back earlier than people were anticipating. So if they get him back, man, and D-Hop and
Kelce's
Mahomes
starting to find himself too.
Yeah,
D-Hop helps
100%. He's opening things up that like people weren't anticipating him to do because like they just thought, oh, he's kind of washed, he's old, whatever. But it seems like him and Mahomes have a chemistry. D-Hop, I'm talking about here.
Well, everyone knows Kelce.
For sure. Their chemistry is pretty good, like from the jump. So, like, as long as it continues to get better, like I feel like they're going to be a really hard duo to defend in general.
Oh, absolutely, because Mahomes can put it wherever he wants, and D-Hop understands defense.
Yeah, and can catch the football.
He can.
He hasn't had a receiver that can has this strong of hands.
Yeah,
maybe ever. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Like Tyreek doesn't have as good of hands.
Hill's
he's a better
fast,
player. But
Kelce's kind of just a catch it in open space type of person.
Yeah.
Did you see the Remember the Titans celebration?
That was pretty clever. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
Because that was fun. But I saw something else too about the Titans, and it was like everyone's mad because they gave the Chiefs a receiver, like an actual receiver, and then they gave the Lamar and them a running back.
Yeah, and then I think I saw that same meme. It was like you gave D-Hop to the Chiefs, you gave Derrick Henry to the Ravens, and you gave A.J. Brown to the Eagles. It was like you traded away all your Infinity Stones, basically. It's crazy.
But no, the Chiefs. I was surprised because D-Hop played so well, but Kelce had 12 catches.
Yeah,
and he was targeted like 14 times, and like I mentioned earlier, the interior three of the Chiefs O-line is just so good. They had to deal with the animal of Vita Vea, who's just massive.
So good.
He's like 350 pounds, and he just moves people.
Yeah, he's incredible in the run game and can really make things happen in the pass rush as well.
He doesn't even like make a move. It's just, I'm going to push you forward.
Yeah, he just collapses the interior of the pocket, and then it makes your quarterback run left or right, and then it's like you cut the field in half doing that. So like that's why interior pressure from the D tackle position, pass rush wise, is so important.
Should they have gone for 2?
Yeah,
I think so too.
Yeah.
I'm like,
you're in Kansas City, you got to go for the win there.
Because even then, you still give Mahomes the ball back with 20-something seconds left. But I don't see. It was raining. I was like, I don't know why you want that game to extend.
No, you get up out of there with the win, or get out of there with a loss. Get on that plane back to Florida.
Yeah, you win or you lose. And then I felt so bad for Baker Mayfield because he ran that 2-minute drill to perfection. Game tied. Calls tails, it's heads. He knows.
He literally was like,
he knows the game's over. It's just like
Mahomes going to go down and win this football game.
And they're probably the best 4-5 team in football.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't think there's a better one right now. Honestly, they're playing pretty good ball, but it just stinks that like injuries have really riddled them at this point. All right, let's move on to what happened at the end of the trade deadline here. It closed on Tuesday, I think about 4:00, and quite a few things happened. Which I'm just going to kind of run through these. And if you have a thought on one of them, just say something or whatever. Steelers, they get Mike Williams for the Jets, and then they trade for Preston Smith from the Packers. I was a little interested and curious about the Preston Smith being traded away from the Packers. The Packers are clearly like a contender in the NFC. Preston Smith is a starting D-end / outside linebacker, whatever you're going to consider him. It was a little weird that he was traded, but this is a great move for the Steelers.
Is he on the other side of TJ?
So he's actually like 3 or 4 now. Like he is just straight up depth for the Steelers.
Oh, really?
The Steelers have TJ Watt, then they have Alex Highsmith. Those are the starters. No, they do not. I don't know where he's at actually right now. But then they have a kid named Nick Herbig. He is
Fitzpatrick.
He's a second-year player. That's a DN. So he's going to join a 4-man rotation there.
That's helpful.
For sure. They're going to come at you in
stretch.
waves in Pittsburgh. So like you said, you were talking about that gauntlet they have kind of at the end of the season there. Like, this is going to help their case.
And then if, God forbid, one gets hurt, you're able to still have 4
you got the depth for it still.
Legit players.
For sure, yeah. So I like both of these moves. I mean, Mike Williams is like a 50-50 jump ball kind of guy. Russell Wilson's really good at throwing those moon balls.
Yeah.
It just kind of works out. Like, he's not a great receiver, but he's better than what they have currently.
Yeah, well, because it'll be him, Pickens, and then Harris does a pretty good job as a running back. So their offense, if Russell Wilson can run it right, it's pretty solid, and their defense has always been really
their
good.
defense is going to ball out, and then it's just like, Russell, don't like screw this up, basically. So
pretty much.
Then Lions trade for Zadarius Smith, who
I like.
It's funny, for sure.
Yeah.
Which is funny because him and Preston Smith used to be teammates on the Packers.
Yeah.
But he's coming from Cleveland, comes over to the Lions, and they're essentially just trying to replace the production of Aiden Hutchinson. Not as easy as like saying that, obviously, but he definitely helps their case because they just needed another guy that like people are kind of fear at the end of the day. Like, he's a good player.
Yeah, they knew, especially last year, everyone started. I mean, I watched Hutchinson a lot at Michigan, and I was always like, crud. Like, this guy's good.
Yeah.
Because their secondary would get so much credit for covering for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And
somebody back there just wreaking havoc in the backfield.
And so I think the Lions, they're funny because they don't really have any weaknesses as a team. Like, their cornerbacks aren't fantastic, but they're not bad.
No, they're fine players for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But I think that's good. They at least try and get some of the replacement back.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I think that's a great move for sure. Commanders, they trade for Marshawn Lattimore. I think this is a great move for the Commanders as well. I hate it as an Eagles fan, to be completely honest with you. He's just a good cornerback, and that's like one of the weaknesses that they actually did have on their team was secondary. And so, not a fan of this, obviously. They did this with like the Eagles specifically in mind, because of the way the Cowboys are playing right now, and they don't care about that. They don't care about the Giants right now. They care about the Eagles and winning the NFC East, and this is one step closer to them potentially doing that. They get a guy that can, help at the very least cover a guy like Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, depending on who the matchup is or whatever. Good player, a little bit injury prone. We'll see if he can stay healthy for them. But this is a great move. I don't care about whatever they had to go to get him or like how much compensation they got or they had to give up for him. I think this is a great move.
Well, because this is one of the first years in a while where the Commanders are in a spot of like, let's try and win. Like, we're in a win now position to try and make the playoffs and go further. But I will be sad to not watch Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans just absolutely
try to kill each other on the football field.
It's like some Josh Norman, Odell Beckham stuff. They just hated each other.
They did. That was sad. Everybody was like tweeting memes about that, saying like they're gonna like low-key miss each other. It's so funny. But like, I was listening to a podcast and they were like, so who do you think like the next person Marshawn's gonna like try to pick a fight with? And everybody was just like AJ Brown or CD. Like CD, I feel like CD can get a little bit feisty
probably.
too.
But I don't know if like Mike Evans was big, but he was like a taller like AJ Brown's like ripped.
Yeah,
like, I don't know
he's pretty big.
If he can fight with that. Yeah, like, CeeDee Lamb seems more his size.
Yeah. I feel like that's a little bit better of a body matchup for him. They're in the same weight class.
Yeah.
The next one I had on the list here was the Cowboys, Jonathan Mingo. We already went over that. Let's not reiterate that. That was just a disaster overall. The last one I do have on here is the Bengals went and got Khalil Herbert from the Bears, who kind of fell out of favor there in Chicago. They really weren't using him a whole lot. They paid DeAndre Swift, and he's been playing decent as of late. They drafted Roschon Johnson last year, and he's kind of developed into their goal line back in general. So they just didn't really have a use for Khalil Herbert anymore. And then obviously the Bengals have a need because Zach Moss looks like he's going to be out indefinitely with a neck injury.
Yeah.
And so they already have Chase Brown, who has come on as their starter. So I think they just needed somebody that could spell him, and he's a smaller back in general. So they need some injury insurance with that as well. So Khalil Herbert, I think, is a great move for them.
Yeah, because they needed to fill the void at running back, but two, it's not like they're a run-heavy team, so they didn't need some big dude to plow through. Because Higgins and Chase are healthy, they'll be just slinging the rock.
For sure.
Because Joe Burrow played really well. I think he had 5 touchdowns.
5 touchdowns. Yep, he did. And Mike Gesicki went crazy.
Yeah, so did Chase Brown.
Yeah, he did. Yes. Fantasy-wise, both those guys had great matchups. And it looks like whenever T. Higgins is out of the lineup, that's when Mike Gesicki essentially he basically takes over his role as just like a giant slot guy.
Yeah.
And he's been balling out. Looks like T. Higgins is not going to play in this game Thursday Night Football against the Ravens. So if Mike Gesicki's out there on your waiver wire, still go pick him up and start him if you don't have like a real dead set starter at tight end. I think he's a great play this week.
Yeah, he should be good. And as you alluded, the Thursday matchup should be real interesting.
Yeah, that's what we got to preview next is Thursday Night Football, Ravens versus the Bengals. Right now, the Ravens are 6-point favorites, which I think that's a large line. Yeah. That's a pretty big line. Like if I like had to put money on it, I think I would probably. Man, I think I'd go Ravens.
I would
Ravens
too.
in the points.
The Bengals defense is just so bad.
That's the thing. Like the Eagles were able to completely smoke the Bengals, and I feel like the Ravens offense is better, if not like equal with the Eagles offense when it comes to explosiveness and whatnot. I think Lamar is playing better than Jalen Hurts is right now. Derrick Henry and Saquon are playing pretty similarly.
You can kind of. The Eagles definitely have the better receivers.
They have the better receivers, but I feel like just like overall that operation is not as.
It's not as
like
crisp
it doesn't like the Eagles offense comes to like a screeching halt sometimes in the middle of a game. And the Ravens offense just hasn't done that all season, and I just think they can really take advantage of the Bengals defense. And I know Joe Burrow kind of has like the Ravens defense's number. The last time they played, they scored like combined like 78 points. The over-under in this game is like 53.5, I believe is what I looked at it at. And so I don't know, man. I don't know what I would do for over and under and whatnot. But
I just think the only way the Bengals have a chance, and this is probably just dumb to say, but Burrow has to go bananas.
Oh, for
like
sure.
They're gonna have to win a shootout. Like they're not gonna win a 10-7 game.
Yeah,
like it's gonna be like 48-48.
Yeah, no, I feel like this is a game where it's like Ravens 34, Bengals like 24.
Yeah,
like I feel like that's the type of game, maybe even less points for the Bengals, like maybe like 17 or something. I feel like this is a game where the Ravens really put their stamp on the division.
I just think the Bengals will, like, when they get down, the Ravens now have the ultimate weapon when they're leading because you just give it to Henry over and
just
over
kill
and
the
over.
clock.
Yeah.
Then
you get 3-4 yards. It takes 3 plays to get a first down. It takes a minute. It's just.
I will be curious though if like for some weird reason the Bengals come out and just hop out to a crazy lead, how the Ravens would respond offensively to that, because they haven't really had a game this season. I mean, obviously they lost the first 2 games that they started on 0-2, but since they've kind of got on this roll with the way that they've used Henry and whatnot, they haven't had to really respond by like being down early in a game. So I'm just curious to see how that would work out for them, but I feel like they'd be fine and they could figure out a way to get through
I just think for them it depends. Like if they're down 14, but it's like the start of the second half, I don't think they really worry.
Yeah, I don't think.
But like if there's like 8 minutes left, it's like, all right, we kind of got to go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's where like the trade for Deontay Johnson is going to come into effect. Like, are the weapons going to be good enough for them? And I feel like they probably are. So.
Yeah, probably, especially with Lamar throwing it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for the Week 9 recap. Do you have any final thoughts you want to get through?
Let's see. Well, my fantasy team won, which was fun.
That's good.
And I was going to ask you.
I won in all 3 leagues as well.
Wow.
I've been on a dude. I think it's 3 weeks in a row.
9 and 0.
Yeah, 9-0 the last 3 weeks. Been really crazy. I've never done that.
That's pretty impressive. Who wins Defensive Player of the Year?
Defensive Player of the Year. It would have been Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Man, who's playing good ball right now? I feel like I'm like blanking on this. Like, who is killing it? I mean, TJ Watt's up there. He's been balling out.
I don't think Parsons is really in that conversation.
Parsons been hurt.
Before then, I don't.
Yeah, he wasn't doing anything crazy before then either. Like, he clearly was missing some of that talent on the defensive side of the ball for the Cowboys there. I don't know.
Yeah. I was trying to think about it. I was laying in bed before I went to bed, and I was like, who would be? And I couldn't, like, is there any Eagles guy doing anything crazy?
No. I mean, Quinyon Mitchell looks like he could get a Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
Like, he's been absolutely shut down for them, but, like, that's not Player of the Year type talent. I don't know. I mean,
Sounds like TJ Watt's
Yeah, I think TJ Watt could really. I mean, based on, like you said, some of this competition coming up, if he starts to go crazy against these really good teams, like he's gonna probably be able to lock one up. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I like that as a pick for sure. All right, that wraps it up. I appreciate everybody listening. This is Hodge Burkhardt once again, and I'm Logan Hill, and we will talk to you next week. See ya.
See ya.